This is like a 40-minute.
No, it should be a regular meeting. Okay, the recording started.
All right.
So, I'm just getting my stuff sorted out here.
Get this party started.
Yeah, so this is, I guess, the first recorded one. We did one of these last week, but it was not formalized at all. So I guess this will be like the first formalized, semi-formalized one, anyways.
Yeah.
And um, yeah, so I guess at the beginning we'll just decide ad hoc who will like drive, aka share screen and walk through the board. So since I did it last time, why don't you do it this time?
Yeah, I could do that.
Or I can do it if you want, but
No. I got it. Let's just get a fresh one with not a million tabs.
yeah. So I guess we'll start right to left, right? So there's some stuff that's still in progress right now.
Is there anything down here? No.
I put this one in progress just because I was filling out more details about it. But I'm not exactly sure that we like, are we gonna for sure do this 100%?
The examples one?
Yeah, like should we not get everybody sort of review up like approval on that?
Yeah, I think we still need to discuss it. Maybe we should move it to discuss.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we
Like,
have the auto?
I think you should label it too. Label
Yeah,
it with discuss.
it should auto move it, right?
Oh, does it have the? Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
You just gotta add it.
Just leave it. Yeah. There you go. Pesto. We have a sandwich.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
All right.
All
So
right.
add better JSON schema support to Playground. Oh, I guess that's like to do with your nesting fields. I mean, nesting table stuff.
Yeah, so I made the pull request that removed the markdown stuff, right? But I created two new tickets out of it. One was like, I didn't really have any JSON schema support. I just had like, okay, if it has a type, put it. If it doesn't, then tough luck, you know?
Yeah.
So what I did was just make a ticket about adding like better stuff. So I'm working on that now.
Nice.
Request stuff.
So you don't have the nested tables then? It's just like pretty gutted and it just says schema like that? Because like the last time we were pairing and I thought it shows like nested tables and stuff.
Yeah, that's not in yet. That needs to get in. This is what it looked like before that.
Mm.
This was like, okay, I looked at like schema.type. Okay, if it's there, put it. If it's not, then don't, right? And then I made a ticket about, okay, like actually render them nested
Right.
properly.
Okay, that makes sense.
So,
And then we got into like how the way in which you would document a content descriptor might not necessarily be the same as a schema, even though they support similar things. Like the one of stuff might be handled similarly, but yeah. Anyway, I don't know if we need
yeah,
to.
so there's that ticket, and then the other ticket is like, I don't have a solution for this, but I can't see anything. But like, see the param descriptions? I think I might have actually fixed this, but as of right now, like they don't render markdown, you know?
Hmm.
So I just need to like
Right. So we got to just
like
like put. Oh, that's interesting because like,
it doesn't follow spec, right?
well, yeah, but how would Markdown look in there? Like, imagine
I know. That's why I made the ticket. I don't have a good like
maybe
solution, but
maybe summary is the only thing we put in a table form, and then like it has a deeper click sort of thing to pop under, or like we're already in the realm of like expando everything, right? So
yeah, well, that's why this one should be marked discuss, right?
hold on, I'm switching headphones. Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool.
Figure out the discuss label across repos. Like it works with the project bot, but they're all going to be different colors if I just use the default. Okay, back to this. Yeah, I got into discuss, so that's good. And it's at the top. So yeah, I don't, like I said, I don't have a solution for that. It's just it was a result of merging this stuff, right? It was like when we removed all the markdown stuff, this was the stuff that came out of it, right?
Right.
We need to add better JSON schema support because I did like
What's 38? 38 is params description don't. Right. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't
Yeah,
render
yeah.
markdown,
Perfect.
right?
All right. That's awesome. So those two should be in to do, right? Or oh, you're
Well,
already working on the add better JSON schema.
yeah.
Right. Okay.
So this one can get so
I feel
this
like we
one.
should discuss it before you like, cause like you. I mean, it. Actually, that's not necessarily true either because some of these things you can't really figure out until you actually start trying it. You start to realize like, oh, that wouldn't work.
Yeah,
But
let's
anyway, I
watch
think
in
maybe we should
progress
have
right
like,
now.
okay, I'm just thinking maybe we should document how we're gonna solve this problem and like different solutions and stuff like that. You feel me? Just adds more
No,
details to the ticket is all I'm getting at. Like there's right, so okay, right? That's the problem. And then I guess the pull request addresses the problem. The issue stays just the problem. That makes sense.
yep.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Like you need to make good pull requests too.
Yeah. It's kind of an interesting issue topic though. Is like, uh, do you only ever put issues in the boards, or do you put pull requests in here too? And if you do both, then what's like? It's kind of weird, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like one PR closes 10 issues. It's like, wow, how does that all work with
Okay.
the GitHub automations? Anyways, uh, yeah, let's just start at the top. No, content
Yep.
descriptor must require name. Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Should probably just assign it to me and pull it in.
Well, it's in to do, so
Okay, true. Yeah,
that's the point of it.
yeah. I guess you
Just
can move
leave it
that one
there.
over.
This
Technical
one.
planning meeting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, add examples support.
Yeah. This is like the playground has no example support, so we need better JSON schema support. We need better examples, and we need better error, like actual error. So like we don't have any of the error reporting in there. Like,
Yeah.
So these are just enhancements to what we currently have. And then this is the tickets we made the other day about like, okay, we need like specific things like a logo or whatever, right?
Yeah, right. Let's triage those as enhancements though.
Okay.
Because right now, like, we're not really too concerned about like making it a finished product like we were talking about there, where with the whole like URL stuff and whatever, right? Like,
Yeah, like that's
we're not there yet
big
anyways, so there's no point in working on that yet. It's putting the horse before the cart, and that is not how we do it. We like to ride our horse.
This one can stay in triage.
What a beauty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave that one.
The future. Yeah. You should put that in discuss. That removes the triage off of it, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, like if you make any label,
Right.
it'll remove it.
Discuss. Yeah. Oh yeah, auto moves it over. That's pretty sick. I like that a lot. That is slick. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's pretty sweet. What do we need to go through? Okay, let's move the
So
future.
these are all valid. This is just lots of playground stuff that needs to be done. That's like good spec'd out work. You know?
Yeah, playground wise, yeah. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of other stuff, right? So let's pull in, or let's just go through the list here. Params, descriptions don't render markdown.
Yeah, we talked like
We gotta discuss
maybe we don't have descriptions, maybe not.
that.
But
Move example method. Yeah, we gotta discuss that as well.
Hey Zach, did you go to that standards meeting or something? Or like conference? I thought you were talking about that a while ago. Some kind of like standards conference I thought you like were like gonna go to
No.
and like tell people about OpenRPC. Did I make that up?
I don't know what conference.
Maybe it was like something that got lost in translation a little bit.
Maybe. Never mind.
That sounds like a cool idea. Should definitely do that.
I'm missing some windows here. What's going on?
Okay, what's the maker? Oh yeah, for meta schema, actually for a bunch of them, we haven't like adhered to proper releases at all. We haven't made our like release candidate. We've just been making, I guess, point releases anyways as 1.0, which is fine. They don't need to all be like in sync on the same version. Just at least as they're in sync on the same major.
Yeah, like 1.0.
Yeah.
Well, is it even like, does that matter too much yet? Because it's kind of like not.
Nope, not yet.
No, that's kind of what I was getting at. Like maybe you just leave it there as like a
Yeah.
place to discuss, but
Agreed. Should be lingering on our minds for sure.
make open.
Yeah, this is a big one we always discuss.
Okay.
Is like,
We
is
really
it capital OpenRPC? Is it lowercase? Let's put some discussion things on here. Yeah, is it capital OpenRPC?
well, okay. Why don't we enumerate the problems, because that sort of dictates the name as well, right? Like there's all these, like, okay, there exists out there another project, unfortunately named OpenRPC, that is nothing at all like what this is, and it's just like some random project on SourceForge or something like that. Keep scrolling.
Maybe no.
Yeah, that's exactly, so yeah, it occupies that namespace, which is the problem. So this fucking thing is pushed all over the place, like, and so like say on Docker Hub, another problem with it is like you can't do dashes. So dashes in the org name don't work on Docker Hub, which
Okay, but if they don't work, then you just like, you would know to probably skip the dash.
yeah, so that's what I kind of have been going by, is like all lowercase with a dash, and then if the context you're in does not allow dashes, it's obvious that you just drop the dash. And then if you're talking about it as like titleized, then it becomes capital O and then all caps RPC. Is my recommendation. Anyways.
That's a good point though. JSON RPC is caps.
Yeah, but it's not an acronym, right? Like
yeah, like JSON is an acronym. RPC is an acronym.
True.
That's why I'm saying the O should be capitalized, and then the RPC should be all caps, and there should be no space, no dash. If you're talking about it as like just a titleized version of it.
Yeah, it gets crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like here, maybe I'll write this out because.
Yeah.
So untitleized, it would just be all untitleized, and then titleized, it'd be ORP, or title, or capital. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, sort of. It looks good too. It looks good, but it's like you'd have to.
Yeah, I think that it covers all the bases. Like it covers working in every programming language, every file naming scheme, whatever, every like org naming shit.
So what are we talking about here then?
Okay. Not the second line. The second line is like, no.
Wait.
I don't know why you're laughing.
Because it's just like so confusing.
No, it's not. Okay, so there's only two things, okay? Delete the second line.
Okay.
Okay. There's those two things. That's the only two things. Now tell me what you do if the platform you're in doesn't allow a dash. It's obvious. Just fucking don't put the dash. Right?
Yeah.
That's a very simple rule to it, right?
Wait, this will be. Hey, could you look up on NPM how I titled isomorphic RPC? Because that'll just be a good like comparison to see like what another random person would think to do it, like how I would just make it up.
Dash.
Oh, it didn't show. Yeah, I think it's a dash. Okay, so it's just I just made it all. Oh,
Capital.
see, see, it's different. I didn't put the PC, and I put the dash capitalized.
Yeah.
I probably should have capitalized.
Man, I've like gone over this so many fucking times in my head, like back and forth, flipping and flopping. I'm telling you, this is the best way to do it.
I like this. I
agree with you. I kind of agree with you. I'll change mine actually. This sounds like a better standard.
I don't think. Yeah, I mean.
Okay, so let's change this to. Because this is what the spec actually is right now. But there's just some repos that don't have the same. Like, okay, let's change this one then. All right. It's a good start.
Yeah.
Just do one or two right now while I'm here. But we'll leave that one open until it's done.
I commented there my contribution to the world. Okay. So moving on.
It is written.
Yeah. All right. So it's not closed, but let's bring it into to do then. So like we can get it done on all the repos. It's maybe not the highest priority though. It could be down here somewhere. Maybe above some of this stuff.
Yeah. That's an important one. Like we can't self-respectingly make a release of this as non-RC without sorting that out.
Yeah.
Because then, like, what do you like? Just we want people to Google it by the titleized name or the dasherized name, because that's what's going to come up in Google the fastest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is enforce pattern restriction on names that serve as IDs. So is that possible?
Yes. Yes. You can have pattern. So you can say that the name is the value is like is constrained to a pattern. So you can say like, okay, you can only use numbers and letters and
You can do that.
these
You
dashes.
do that
but
in
you
the
can't
meta
use, like,
schema then, right?
yeah, but we could say like, hey, don't use like fucking backslashes and stuff like that, or like anything
But
that
you can like unique it across the entire document. That's a thing.
no. So that I have not figured out a way to do that. I don't think there is a way. Maybe we can add propose that to the JSON schema spec that they
So
add like uniqueness verification. But
because I think like anything is valid as the like the paran names and method names and stuff. Like method names, I mean.
well, in this case, it's for names that serve as IDs. Well, yeah, I guess method name is one of the IDs. So yeah, you're right. But I mean, in some cases, it's like, say like if you're using component refs, or like say you want to ref somebody else's schema, and then like they use some crazy fucked up naming shit that like would never work in some language, or like Chinese characters in there. Is that cool? Are we good with Chinese names in there? I don't know. Like that might make it hard to consume.
I don't know.
Anyway, that was the idea behind it. Maybe we leave it as a discuss thing.
Yeah, let's put discuss on.
Yeah. And
Okay.
apologize for swearing like a trucker.
RPC method handler should include parameter types in function definition. What do you mean? This is the generator client. Okay.
Yeah. So this is so that we can use typedoc to generate the language specific. Yeah. And also that will let us produce JS doc when we build the TypeScript into JS. And then from the JS doc, we can generate docs for JS client. Pretty dope. So adding types to the functions give us a lot.
We'll pull this into to do then.
Yeah.
It's nicely specced out now.
Yep. Move example. Oh yeah.
Useful configuration to generator.
Yeah, this is
all the ones I added have type, just to the ones that I added to that like Ethereum spec.
Okay.
Put type in all of them. So you're just talking about enforcing it here, right?
No. So like here I'm talking about this is for the client generator client.
Oh, I mean the one you just moved. You guys just moved.
Oh, that one.
This one?
Yeah.
This one is we're talking about the generator client here. So the thing that is going to generate, there's one in, there's a generated client. Can you hear me or no?
Yeah.
Oh, my headphones are dying. But there's a generated client, for example, in the Ethereum one. It needs to be updated, but the idea is that we have it also produced JS doc or something to do the language docs, so that you can produce those as well as the playground docs that we have as well. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
So if you click into it, I'll show you exactly what I mean. So go to the code, go to source, or wait, no, go to templated. Yeah. Okay, so see line 27. So that's the template that adds the class method for your function, right? So here, this is TypeScript, right? Like it's templating a TypeScript file. So if we add type annotations to that function, see where it says like ... params is an array of anything. Okay, well we need to replace array any with array of the params that are specified, like basically map OpenRPC onto TypeScript. Well, like basically, there's other like I'm sure there's a library that'll do this for us. That'll give us a like a TypeScript like definitions file given like given.
Oh, I get you. Okay.
You know, like I'm sure, like I know that there's stuff that goes the other way, like TypeScript to JSON schema, but if maybe it doesn't exist, it's fine. Like it won't be so hard to write anyways. Like they're pretty similar. So yeah, just got to write a thing that's going to add types, like TypeScript types to this generated stuff. That way, we can use TypeDoc to generate, you know, the docs that you want. Okay, like after you generate this client, the next step would be, okay, generate the docs now from the client that you just generated.
Because like the playground stuff is good, but it's just the RPC methods. It's not like if you took this and used it in JavaScript, you can't like copy and paste it, right? Like it's not gonna produce some code, like some example code that has like, oh wait, this thing, it takes a promise, blah 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 blah, right? Like how the actual, like you interact with the actual library in the language that you're talking about, right?
Well, like yeah, ultimately, I mean, you use TypeScript, right? So at the end of the day, what it amounts to is that in TypeScript, or sorry, shoot, VS Code. In VS Code, which is what you use, I think anyways. So yeah, in VS Code, because it'll have some JS doc in there with all the descriptions and titles and summaries and everything. In editor, everything will be annotated when you start pulling in this class, right? So you're like, new my class, it's gonna have like all the docs in your editor. Because of
even in
ticket,
like
right?
JavaScript.
Yeah, in JavaScript as well, yeah.
Okay, I think I get it. So these are like the things that they would make in every language, where it's like
Yep.
Kind of like a Web3, but like in every language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, like a meta
You'd
one,
have one of these,
templated one.
Yeah, you'd have one of these for every language that you want to support. So the idea is to have like 10, 12 languages, and all of those be able to produce docs.
Do you think that'll like be perfect enough to like actually work?
Yep.
It's got to be like just right.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be totally fucked up.
That's why you need to have a good spec, right?
Yeah. There's also going to be we're spitballing around the idea of like where and what we're going to do with dynamic clients, and whether or not they, like we're kind of holding off because like, okay, JavaScript one is obvious how you would do that, just like use a proxy object and like problem solved. But say, what about in, I don't know,
like C, you know?
Sure, yeah, C, like how's that gonna go down? And then what about like, I don't know, like like some guy wants to write a Perl one or a girl or whatever, you know? So like, just saying, there's.
Yeah, you can't just do it with like a string and you just add. I guess it wouldn't always work.
And it's a totally different life cycle than the static generated version of something, which is what this is, right? This is like, when I run the generator, I'm gonna get a full-fledged project out with its own stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be a supplement to my service, because ultimately this is just a connector piece to a service, right? So that's also something to keep in mind, is like, this is like whatever this makes, it's making language specific interface to the service that you're providing ultimately, right? And where you get the like, there's vastly different models for how you may want to deploy something like that. Like for a lot of cases, the dynamic client scenario is more than enough, right? say doing really genericized OpenRPC tooling that'll run in a browser. You can build some really crazy stuff with that, right? But on the flip side, like you said, like there's a certain amount of flexibility that people are going to want, right? And I'm not advocating that people go and start, like, people generate the client and then go and add in a ton of code to it. But certainly, should that be required, like there should be some sort of way of doing that, not too difficultly. Like if you need to extend the client, it should be easy.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it's like you start with the generated thing and then tweak some shit after, maybe. Is that what you're thinking, or no?
Yeah, or even fork the template, right?
Well, like I'm thinking more like there's like a life cycle to it, right? Like think of this as like nobody should be actually running these generators. This is ideally all the job of like Circle CI or whatever, so that when your service gets a new release made, let's say, like there's many different ways where you could get the schema, like the new openrpc.json file for the service. Like maybe it's part of the service's release, maybe it's maybe there's a static set of servers that it'll go look at. Like if you're talking about,
it's almost like you want like an npm like server that we would run that would just like have all these things for people. But like anyone could just register their,
I mean, that could
their schema
totally
with it.
That could be one of the ways, right? Like that.
Yeah.
There's no suggestion over how you fetch your schema, but the point of it is rather that this tool takes a schema and potentially generates a new project or potentially updates a existing project. So like say you already have a client generated and now you're making a version 2 of this thing. It's not like, some people may want to just completely overwrite the old docs.
It should just be a version.
Will want to have versioned docs, right? So like,
yeah, it should follow the version number of the.
Mm-hmm. Well, like it should, right? But is that
the version number of the generator, maybe?
Yeah, it just comes back to like, what constraints are you happy on to like slap on people, basically? And as uncomfortable as it felt to write code like this, that's like templating code, like this seems like the most like flexible and pragmatic kind of way of like, well, say I have a bunch of services, I want to generate clients in a whole bunch of languages. Well, I want docs for each of those languages as well. It's like, blammo, here's a whole way of like getting them all. And yeah, and it's all just
nice. Okay.
So it's not like super complicated. Like you can go read through what code it generated. It's not.
Yeah.
Not
this is good.
appliances.
Now I get it, because I think you guys were talking about this the other day, and I was just like, I was kind of lost on like dynamic versus static, like generator clients. I didn't know the words like confuse me, like generator client. I don't know what that necessarily means. But then
so I think
let's just talk. What is this for? We need to just talk through it.
Yeah, I think one of these.
If I would have asked, you guys are like, you could have just been like the thing that you made, like the isomorphic RPC. That's like exactly.
Well, yeah, that's the dynamic one, right?
That's a dynamic client for JavaScript. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just like, we're trying to not add too much too quickly, I guess is the point. Like we probably shouldn't have even added this. Like kind of jumped.
Yeah, it's kind of early. It's early for this stuff probably. Yeah. But if this could work, I mean, if you could get this working.
It does work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like today, my plan is to generate the client for the Ethereum one today.
It works. We have tests too. So like it's all.
Actually, that would be a perfect like round, like kind of full circle thing, because then I could just start using this and just, make sure that works, unlike my projects and stuff.
Well, like, how about right after this, we'll pair on it.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Man.
All right.
I think there's a ticket in there to possibly rename it to generator client dash static to basically carve out space for dash dynamic, right?
No, it's already like that in there, right? It says templates.js, there's static and
Oh,
templated.
but static is the stuff that doesn't get templated, but they all get smashed together, and then npm installs inside of it and makes a build and shit. Like,
No,
that's
there's
not the
nothing about that
dynamic.
naming.
What?
I don't see anything about the naming. Is it like here?
No. No, that one's like, that one will come, that one's dependent on having another language. Because there's going to be at some point, like, you'll want to configure language specific shit stuff. Sorry.
Okay. So you don't have one for that? That should just be like, okay, just make a ticket for that then.
Yeah. I'll make one if you want. Or do you want to make it?
You can make it.
Okay.
Um,
And then I'll mark it as discuss.
yeah. So, okay, add useful configuration to generator. What useful configuration are we talking about here? Like right now it takes S for schema, and then
Sorry, I'm just making this ticket and only haphazardly paying attention.
and then the output directory.
Sorry, what's the question here?
There's this ticket about add useful configuration to generator.
Right. Can you mark that saying dependent on the number 17? Yeah. There's no point in having a configuration until there's actually something to configure.
Okay.
Right? Like right now, the only thing in there is the JS one. So like, okay, I'll put all the configuration in one pile, and then when there's some need to like pull it out of there, then let's do that.
Yeah.
But no point in doing it before there's actually a problem there. That's kind of what I'm getting at.
So this one's look into more sustainable templating approaches.
Yeah.
We'll look into this kind of stuff.
Wow, we have to make the label on every repo, eh?
Yeah, I know that's what I was talking about before.
Bummer.
It's not the same color.
Yeah. Not really, really no fun. I guess we got to go through afterwards and make them all the same color, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that?
Why don't we just utilize their labels and we'll have our own meanings to them?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we could. It's like, don't read the name of that label literally.
This one's pretty good. This is more like a bug. Spec.
It's like, oh, finished? That translates to feature request.
Hey, Shane.
Or something.
Are you comfortable that everyone understands what this is?
No. Okay, so this one is in the spec. There is when it's talking about content descriptors and how there's a required field. There's no default value. So like obviously required should default to false, but see how like deprecated says default value is false, but required doesn't really say anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So Fyro actually made this ticket, which is pretty sweet. So let's get that in.
Yeah.
Go down here with all the rest of the bugs.
I think you should, how can we like ping him on that and see if he wants to make a PR for it?
Well, we'll put it in to do. We just won't assign to anybody for now. Maybe we'll
Okay.
chat with him later.
Do you guys know him? He pinged me like he slid into my DMs the other day.
He's a cool guy.
Chatted with him a little bit.
Yeah, he's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move down here where we need tests and Circle CI for mock server. Yeah, that's probably a good one. I don't think we have any of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, this one's a big pizza. Well, like it works, but I mean, it's not like it could be like a billion times more useful.
Yeah, we have some tickets to improve it in here, so I think.
Well, like I don't even know if it actually still does work. Maybe
it does. Well, this ticket should help that if you're gonna write tests for it.
Agreed.
Let's.
Oh God, please do the spec spaces or tabs. Please do spaces and make it dose of them. If we're voting on it.
Yeah, the document that was given to me to amend had just not spaces.
Yeah, that was because I think I probably. Oh yeah.
All your fault. I won't be blamed.
I think I wrote most of it inside the GitHub editor, unfortunately.
Oh my
well, like not. God. I mean, like when I say most of it, I mean like what was there when you took it over, which is like not much.
Yeah.
Spaces, right? Everyone's on spaces. Yeah. Okay.
Is that on spec?
Mm-hmm.
Where are we putting? Is this in to do now?
It's not anywhere yet, but I labeled it enhancement, and I commented.
To do?
Yeah. So here's one I made. Support for RPC discovery and generator mock server. That would be super convenient, right? Follow spec for that.
You support for, oh yeah, definitely. Move that to like the top. That's such an easy win.
You know what this is, Mitten?
No.
So there's a mock server which takes the OpenRPC document and it uses like
faker data.
Yeah, it uses the JSON schema faker data for each one of the methods, and then just like, okay, get the result schema and pass it to this JSON faker, right? And then return that. So you basically get a great like mock server. And like this could be even better with some of the stuff we have on the spec for examples. I won't get into that. But as of right now, it works great as like a mock server. Like you can write a client against it and it kind of works, you know? So the idea is for that mock server, we should add that rpc.discovery method because it doesn't have that right now. So we should add that to follow spec, and then that will enable some like really crazy stuff, right? Like if you can discover your mock server, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be? Wouldn't that be like pretty much the exact same thing that the regular server would say when you call RPC discover, because it has the whole spec? Or
exactly, yeah. So you can start building tools against it like day one. You know?
To be clear, RPC discover returns the open-rpc.json file, which is the the representation of your API. So it'd be like if you call a method RPC discover on Ethereum, you'd get back the thing that you wrote, right? And then this is just saying like, well, if we're making a generator mock server, like at the very least it should follow its own spec. And currently it doesn't in a lot of ways. This is one of them. Validate params is the next one, because like that's actually part of the spec is that the params are supposed to be valid, so it should actually validate them.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, so this would be really cool because then you can have tools immediately work with the mock server and stuff, just hitting up the RPC discover. So
why don't you add a little bit more of a
Yeah, that's
description
cool.
to it and then move it over? Just like throw in a little like, you return the example, or sorry, return the provided schema. Yeah.
This is like a huge project, but I mean, like, if it works out,
Oh,
it'll
buddy,
be pretty
it's
fucking
already
cool.
working out.
yeah, it's already
Dude, you just, like, it's gonna work out. Don't you worry.
How popular do you think RPC is? Like, obviously you got Bitcoin and Ethereum, but like,
Oh,
are
buddy,
all of the other like little like
we're
toy
gonna
block,
make
like
it's
shitty blockchains using it too, or like
Yes.
Oh yeah,
EOS?
all of them.
okay. In
pretty much
blockchain
all.
land, it's the only thing that people use. Outside of blockchain, it's not really super popular, but
I got like a big
going
list.
to be super fucking popular. Well, like these tools, okay, gRPC is sweet if you're like fucking like balls deep in Go and like really really like it's not like you're gonna hire somebody like 1 year of experience and throw them into gRPC and they're gonna have a great time necessarily. Like, well, they'll have a better time with that than actually no gRPC. But like what I'm getting at is like JSON RPC is just like so simple. Like it's just like a really easy like onboarding, especially compared.
Is it gonna? You think it'll kind of take over like the REST API stuff? Like it'll just become a new standard that's more popular, kind
I don't
of?
think it'll take over, but it definitely supports messaging better. Like it supports asynchronous as well as synchronous APIs, and it's like human readable. And like as we're building these tools, like well, if we build them in a very modern-esque way, well then surely like okay, people have switched their stack to use gRPC on the sole basis of the tooling that's provided over there. So I don't see why people wouldn't want to like if we provide tooling that can compare, then I don't see why people wouldn't take it a lot more seriously. That's all I'm getting.
Yeah, so there's lots of good stuff using it now. Like, here's a great example. There's this random.org, which gives you like, it's a random number generating service. And it uses JSON RPC. So you can like check out their JSON RPC stuff. This is a method, generate integers. It takes an API key, how many integers you want to generate, the minimum boundary and the maximum boundary, right? And it like returns to you all of the data or whatever, right? So just by having, like, say we had if they had an OpenRPC JSON stuff for this or provided it, then you would be able to get like all of these crazy tools on top of this, not just like documentation, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a list
all
here.
these guys can be using our stuff, and like if you look at AWS and stuff, they have extensions and whatnot for OpenAPI, and this is very similar to OpenAPI. And I've used API Gateway using a message-based interface. Like so basically the setup was API Gateway in front of SQS, trying to do schema validation on the incoming messages, and the messages were all JSON. Simple, sort of like basically the messages for all intents and purposes might as well have been JSON RPC. Sent to API Gateway. API Gateway would put them into SQS, which is like a big queue, right? And then eventually something would like send some message back to a queue, and they could listen for it. But the problem there was like API Gateway supports OpenAPI, which like made me define this as like a REST API. So how it looks as a REST API is just one method, and then it's got a like one of clause, big array, and then like all of the message payloads that are valid, like JSON schemas to each one, basically. And so when you generate the client for that, you don't really get anything. You get a method that validates the params and stuff, yeah, but you still have to like it's not going to be very well like self-documenting, so to speak. Like there's not going to be any good editor built in tooling for that to like tell you what methods are on this instance. If you have to pass it a string, which is the method name every time, then like at that point, why would you even use any of this anyways? Right? Like, well, there are libraries where you pass the method name in, like, well, I just validate the schema. I don't need a generated library, right? So like, yeah, what I'm getting at is OpenRPC has like very valid applications, even in something like AWS, where having a API gateway extension so that you could provide a OpenRPC schema file, and then it sets up a API gateway for you. And then that API gateway just routes the messages to SQS or what have you. That'd be incredible. So, and I don't know, maybe they have, I'm sure Amazon has some sort of like WebSocket termination stuff as well. So like you could probably do like the bidirectional stuff, or like maybe they set it up so that with API gateway, if you use this stuff, they would have it auto do like post via long polling if there's no ID included, which means like it's basically a like notification or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. There's all sorts of interesting stuff. That
I hope it does. I hope it does like continue to take off, because, oh man, just JSON in general is just way better than like XML. I never understood that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
I think there's a sufficient motivation just because of the idea of like Geth and like client teams not having to worry so much about changing RPC endpoint specs, or like keeping it version, but like adding new stuff, or like just changing the ones that are there. And like can you imagine all the tooling downstream that breaks when you change stuff like that? Like just keeping docs up to date is a full-time job for like most of these projects. So
yeah, that's actually one of the things that EIP was addressing that I posted the other day. But I think the main problem with that, because they were saying, oh, let's put it all into an EIP. Like, I think that's kind of stupid. Like, the docs are in a decent spot now. Putting them, did you guys read that thing that I sent you? I think that was like
the bounty.
Yeah, exactly, the bounty. But the bounty was because of an EIP. Maybe I didn't send you the link to the actual EIP, but someone was basically saying like, oh, we don't know what like the standards are because different clients have like different experimental new methods that like aren't
Yeah, exactly, right? Nobody knows what anything has anymore.
Oh, there you go.
Because it's weird, because it's something that like should be standardized between the clients, but it's also not like, it doesn't affect the consensus sort of stuff at all. So it's
like,
sort of weird. Like a lot of them are different. But
think of it this way: any one of these projects, when you go and add something or change something to the interface, just think of all of the stuff that you have to change, like let alone inside of the project alone. Like in some projects, regenerating the docs or updating the docs isn't necessarily a straightforward thing. Like some people are like, no, there's like a docs guy or whatever, like a team that manages the docs. Like we don't have any access to that. Like they'll just update it. Like what? Like it's just madness, man. It's like,
well, it's kind of the Ethereum one's kind of madness in its own way. Like literally anyone on the internet can delete it at any moment.
Yeah.
Like there's no, like it's just a wiki page and you just update it. I was like very surprised. There's no like, no one like checks it after you updated it. Like it just, your changes just become effective immediately.
Oh, so wouldn't it be nice if you could just regenerate them?
Yeah. Know? But so anyway, yeah, like what that EIP was saying is like, oh, we need to put them into a central spot, like into an EIP. But it's like, wait a minute, why do we want this in an EIP? That's not necessarily, everyone already knows where the current document is. I don't think moving it to a different place is better. But really what they need to do is that page needs to have a section for parity and Go and whatever other clients and their personal experimental methods need to be documented in there. That's the real thing, like that people need immediately.
Well, like
we gotta rope
how
it
you
back
can
here
do
to, we gotta rope it back to OpenRPC stuff here.
yeah. So how I would solve like that is just using tags with OpenRPC, right? Like tag it as experimental. So I'll just show you what I'm talking about. So in the spec, there's a tag object that you're allowed to put on your method, or like it's tags, and you basically can put as many tags as you want in there, and then the docs ideally like organize themselves in the best way it can dealing with your tags. You know?
Well, it's a tag. It's like a loose grouping. So like you can make it however you'd like. So yeah, in the case of this pet store, pet, like say anything to do with a pet might get the pet tag, and then maybe anything to do with billing might have the billing tag, right?
Or if it's experimental, maybe it gets that tag.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then in the docs, it would just list out the tags that it has, and then I guess you click a tag, and it would show you other methods with that tag, kind of thing.
Yeah, like however we want to deal with that in the tooling layer.
Maybe we just like resort the list or something based on the tags.
There's like infinite things you can do.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so let's roll through here. We're
right. So yes, we want support for RPC Discover in the mock server. That kind of belongs at the top. The next one, validate params. So we talked about this already, but this means like, you can edit it from here now. Okay. So this means, so the mock server, when getting a request to the mock server, make sure all the params passed are validated via the right? Like just make sure that everything that you're ingesting in the mock server gets passed through validation, so you don't have like you're not just doing operations on garbage requests. Yeah.
Send it.
Yeah, it's at the top here now.
Okay. Rust client generator. Oh wait, did we skip one?
Well, you kind of skipped over these 2 years.
Oh, well, I wanted to just mention that for that one, I'd like to put in some work on it. And if we're to add a little more description to it, basically I'd say that right now the source that does, like the code that does all the templating is really specific to JavaScript. And there's like a couple constructs to abstract in order to make it work for whatever language is in the repo. So like aware of whatever folders are there and all that. Yeah. So that's kind of the work captured there. And then the other part is adding the actual Rust client. And then when all that's done, then I would consider this like a mergeable pull request. So yeah, I want to like rope in Kostya or somebody that can like vet a good base JSON RPC library for the client. One with like good support across like WebSockets and HTTP, IPC, whatever else you want to do. Yeah, so.
Okay. I pulled it in to view.
Wait, that root CLI support multi-languages?
Mm-hmm.
I think that might have been it. Yeah, that's the one that we just added. So we just added the description to we can't do 17 until 19 is done, and you can delete this, yeah, or move that into the other one maybe. But, yeah, so this one needs to be done before 17.
Okay.
Are all the generators, like the language client generators, generated in one language? Like, are you writing the generators in one language?
So yeah, it's all just so like where I need help is writing the templated and static files for the Rust project that will be produced. But the code that actually like orchestrates it all is just going to be in one language, and I'll define the like how to write like the intent is to write like a how to add a new language, right? And then the test of it is like, okay, can I bring Kostya in, or can I bring Mike, and can they get it? Like, can they like, is there enough information there for them to get it done, basically? And if so, then
so you're writing them in JavaScript or what?
Yeah. And then I've wrapped it as a Docker container so that those who don't want to have like this specific version of Node or what have you installed can just run with Docker.
Okay. Yeah, and I put that one above the Rust client generator.
Yeah. That one's we already did. Like, we're just leaving that as a discuss. It doesn't have the discussion label.
Okay. Yeah, that's discussed too. Support position by and params for mock saving.
Shit. Yeah, fuck, dude. We need to do this immediately.
Yeah. Let's put that up there too.
Yeah, we should explain that. What is it?
So, okay. So in JSON RPC, the way like Ethereum passes its params is like in an array, right? But actually in the spec, it says that there's like a by params one where it passes an object. But like, it's kind of weird because what would the key be of some of these params, right? Like instead of, so let me write this out. So instead of it being like, like say it's like ETH get block and you're passing like params as an array or something, right? But actually it's in the spec that you're allowed to pass it as like whatever the hell is. Like,
yeah.
So that's totally allowed. But
technically,
I don't know if you can.
Technically also allowed interchangeably.
Yeah, like the server's supposed to be able to take this either way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
that's messed up. So it's like you can't. So if you write any service that like supports RPC, you're supposed to support both of those styles.
Yeah, it's
I don't know. It's kind of loosely worded. Like it's kind of left to interpretation, I think, at this point.
So here's where it is in the
interpretation.
It says like, okay, parameter structures. If present, parameters for the RPC call must be provided as structured value, either by position through an array or by name through an object. By position must be an array containing the server expected order. And this is by name params must be an object where they're like the names match the server expected param names, but like in Ethereum, I don't even know what that would be because they're not documented. It's all arrays, right?
Not just that. Listen, the spec itself is like ambiguous on its use of the word either in this case.
Yeah, it's like
so
either.
Like, does it mean that it must? Is it exclusive, or is it?
Yeah.
Is it literally or, meaning that it can be both, or
no,
either imply exclusivity over the or? That's kind of what I'm getting at. The spec has a definition section, and it doesn't say what it means when it says either. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it needs to specify if it's going to use that as a logical word, like English replacement for some logical, like.
Yeah. The problem is the English language is not specific enough, and that's why you need. It should be. This whole file should just be a JSON RPC file.
Like, scroll up. Okay, scroll up. Scroll up. Scroll up.
It
Scroll
should
up.
be the schema.
Scroll to the top.
What?
Conventions.
Yeah, look, it has that kind of stuff.
Yeah, here it
Yeah.
should say either and then define what they mean there, because like when the reason why they have those is because they're like strictly
Yeah. Like they're using
based
the
on RFC.
keywords here, must and must, which maps to these keywords, right? And those are described in RFC 2119.
Like this
right?
crazy way of trying to like make a specification
Right.
English.
So exactly what you were saying was like define it even more. So they are kind of doing that, but in that specific case where it's talking about the position by, they aren't using any of that kind of language, right? It's
I
saying
think the question is whether or not the word must is getting distributed to both of those.
yeah, I know, right?
Or
That's what I'm saying. So like how I would word that is
you need parentheses or something.
it must be one of by position or by name, like basically
One of.
use the same shit that it already uses, right? Like like one of, and then define one of at the top to be the definition of one of borrowed from JSON schema spec draft whatever 6, right?
So the great part about it is that in the normal case you would expect stuff to be objects being passed back and forth, which is great and it's readable, right? But actually if you do the array part, you actually get rid of like a ton of bytes going across the wire, right? Because you don't have any of the keys in there.
That's right.
Yeah, which is what they use usually.
Yeah, exactly.
But
so
then it's by position. It's like positional at that point, which is kind of a bit weird, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't know of any language off the top of my head that arrays don't preserve order, but I know that it is a feature of programming languages that people talk about. So therefore, it must be the case that some languages don't preserve order in terms of arrays. So like that could be pretty crazy for that, right? I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
It's just interesting to point that out, though. But yeah, so
it's a method. The params generally they don't change orders. It's like the arguments of the method.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that and what that means though is that when you're generating, say, a JavaScript client or any client for that matter, when you're like, what is the JavaScript interface if it's by position versus if it's by param? Like, should it be different? Should it be the same? Well, like what we're saying here is if you have this toggle switch of by params and by position, then the interface can remain the same. It'll always just be like positional arguments, basically. Or potentially anyways, like we haven't really fully decided necessarily, but like but then like when it's actually
it's in the spec right now.
it'll know how to build it'll know like what the server is expecting at least. So like I guess when you think about it, we've interpreted this as
this is a bug.
Yeah, that needs to be escaped. It's gonna have a pipe and
no, like it's like type is by name.
I know. Like because the separator for table is
oh, okay. You did the or. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And anywho's, it's it's kind of like a weird part of JSON RPC. It'd be nicer if it was like less flexible in that regard, but I guess they have their merits, I suppose.
Well, like you said, it gets you more bytes across the wire.
Yeah.
If you do array.
Yeah. Yep. It's fair. Anyway.
Okay, so fix escaping.
If I may, one last thing. We've in the spec set the default to be by position. So it's arrays first. Like that's why the default you won't have to put it in the Ethereum one that you've done because the default is that it's array. So
yeah.
Good.
Okay, so I'll pull this in. This is the issue on the spec where it's like it's supposed to be on one line, but it like the or is making it a table.
Yeah.
On one
Yeah,
line.
those last two are good bugs.
Yeah. This one is good. It's kind of lower on the priority list though. But
Why are they sticking around? Like, you mean like you're fixing the error, but it's not going away?
This was from a while ago though.
That was on the playground. That's the errors would just show at the top, and then even after I fixed them, it still just kept showing them.
All right, well, we'll look into that. And then this one too, where like if you have too many error messages in there, like the height isn't capped. So
Yes, that's
the most disturbing one for sure.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't using it, but until I got it working on VS Code first.
yeah. So let's say like whatever 200 pixels, then like overflow, scroll it or whatever, something like that. And that'll be good. And then yeah, I think we went through it all there. Everything in discuss should be there. This stuff is all good. Spec'd out work, and then
got a lot of stuff across both boards now.
Yeah, so why don't we call this meeting
Adjourned.
We'll call it done.
Yeah. I'm going to stop the recording, and to anybody that watches this, build us some good stuff and make us
Yeah.
Wait, what? Record that?
Yeah.
All right.